Speak version equals 1.0 XMLNS equals http://www.w3.org/2001/10/synthesis XML lang equals DNUS. Voice name equals NUS Christopher Neural. Prosody rate equals 0%, pitch equals 0%. I'll never forget the day I watched my best friend marry my ex-wife on the lawn of the company I built from a folding table and a maxed-out credit card. The August sun was brutal, beating down on the white chairs and the forced smiles. I stood behind a column of the country club, hidden in the shadows, wearing a suit that cost more than my first month's rent. My hand shook around a flute of champagne I didn't want. Sarah looked radiant in ivory lace, her bouquet of white roses perfectly matching the centerpieces Mark had definitely paid for with my money. Mark stood at the altar, adjusts his cufflinks, flashing that wolfish grin he reserved for investors and marks. He caught my eye for a split second. He didn't look guilty. He looked victorious. He mouthed two words I read perfectly from 30 feet away. "Thank you." The crowd erupted in applause as they kissed. I turned and walked out the side gate before the first pedal hit the aisle. I got in my rented Toyota and screamed until my throat bled. Rewind 3 years. Mark and I met in a hacker house in Oakland. We were two guys sleeping on air mattresses, eating ramen straight from the pot, arguing about architecture until 4 a.m. He was the sales guy. Charisma in a bottle. Could sell a subscription to oxygen. I was the builder. Code, architecture, the grinding logic that held the walls up. We complemented each other like breath and lungs. We founded Nexus Logic in that garage. Sarah was there from day one. She wasn't just my girlfriend, she was our first believer. She managed the books, negotiated the first lease, mothered us through the Series A crunch. She laughed at Mark's terrible jokes. She brought me coffee when I hadn't moved in 14 hours. The three of us. A tripod. Unshakable. Or so I thought. You don't build something that intense without fusing your DNA into the walls. I trusted Mark with my life. I gave him my login credentials. My bank tokens. The keys to the kingdom. Why wouldn't I? He was family. The first crack wasn't a bang. It was a whisper. A missed stand-up. A delayed reply. Mark started taking calls in the hallway. His phone screen went dark when I walked past. I told myself it was investor relations. High stakes. Pressure. Then the documents started disappearing from the shared drive. Minor things at first. Term sheets. Cap table updates. I asked the admin, Elena. She looked at her shoes. Mark asked me to move them to his personal drive, David. For security. Security. That word still makes me laugh. It was the takeover keyword. I confronted him in the glass conference room. The one with the view of the bay. What's going on, Mark? I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. He didn't flinch. He spun his chair to the window. Restructuring, Dave. You're too close to the code. The board wants a CEO who scales. Not a founder who codes. What board? I asked. We don't have a board. We have us. He turned then. The mask slipped. We have a board now. Emergency session. Yesterday. 51-49. The air left my lungs. You gave Sarah voting shares. It wasn't a question. She's a co-founder in spirit, he said. She voted for vision. For growth. For me. The betrayal wasn't the vote. It was the math. He'd seduced her into the position to knife me. He used my wife to steal my life. The lockout happened on a Tuesday. Rain lashed the windows. Badge denied. Code red. My keycard flashed red at the front desk. The new security guard, a guy I'd never seen, shook his head. "Mr. Vance's orders. You're not authorized." I stood there in the lobby, soaked, holding a bagel. The company logo glowed behind him. My logo. My code. My sleepless nights. I pulled out my phone. Blocked. Email. Bounced. Slack. Deactivated. 10 years. Gone in a keystroke. I walked home in the rain. 5 miles. I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't call the police. I just walked. Let the cold water wash the shock off my skin. When I got to the house, our house, the locks were changed. A note taped to the door. Asterisk David, the movers come Saturday. Mark, asterisk that was it. 11 years. Reduced to a post-it note. I sat on the porch swing in the downpour until the sun came up. My neighbors brought me a towel. I didn't cry. I just calculated. The lawsuit was a sledgehammer on glass. Expensive. Ugly. Public. Mark's lawyers buried me in discovery. They painted me as unstable. Erratic. A founder who couldn't let go. They used my own stress against me. "Mr. Vance," the opposing counsel sneered in deposition, "you were locked out for security violations." "I built the security protocol," I said. "Then you should know why it worked," he smiled. "Sarah didn't show up. Not once. She let Mark's team handle it. Her silence was louder than any accusation." The judge ruled. Fiduciary duty. Business judgment rule. Mark stayed CEO. I got a payout. Pennies on the dollar. Enough to pay the legal fees and maybe a down payment on a condo in a neighborhood I didn't know. I signed the papers with a Mont Blanc pen Mark had bought me for my birthday 3 years prior. The irony wasn't lost on him. He signed next to me. His signature was a flourish. Mine was a jagged line. "Good luck, Dave," he said, extending a hand. I didn't take it. "You're going to need yours," I said. Here is the thing about builders. We don't just write code. We write traps. Logic bombs. Dead man switches. Not malicious. Insurance. I knew Mark. I knew he didn't read the fine print. He only read the headline. Buried deep in the infrastructure layer, in the boring YAML config files nobody touches, I left a key. A master key. Not for money. For truth. The company ran on a proprietary scheduling engine I wrote in 2019. It handled the routing, the billing, the client comms. The brain. Mark outsourced the dev team 6 months after I left. Cheaper. Faster. He thought. He didn't know the engine required a monthly handshake with a specific deprecated API endpoint hosted on a server I owned personally. A server in a rack in a colocation facility in Utah. I paid the bill every month. $20. He never noticed the line item. He was too busy buying the country club membership. Too busy planning the wedding. 6 months after the wedding, the engine seized. Not crashed. Seized. Gracefully. Politely. It stopped processing payments. Stopped routing leads. Stopped sending invoices. The dashboard went green. Healthy. But the money stopped moving. Panic. The new CTO called me. Begged me. "David, we don't understand the architecture. It's a black box." I listened. I heard the fear. "Good. I can fix it," I said. "But I don't work there anymore. Name your price." "I don't want money," I said. "I want the IP back. All of it. The patents. The trademark. The client list. The source code. Everything. Signed over to a new LLC. Today. That's impossible. Mark would never. Mark isn't the CEO right now, I said. The company is dead in the water. Every hour is $1 million in churn. You have the board's number. Call them. Tell them David Vance is the only guy who can turn the lights back on. Tell them the price is the company. Silence. Breathing. You're insane. Am I? Check your bank account. Payroll runs in 4 hours. It's going to bounce. I hung up. The board met at midnight. Emergency session. Mark screamed. Threatened. Lawyered up. But the money was stopping. The investors were screaming louder. By 3 a.m., the assignment documents were DocuSigned. I got the company back. All of it. For the price of a $20 server bill and a phone call. I didn't go back as CEO. I installed a gray-haired operator who knew how to run a boring profitable business. I took the chairmanship. 0 salary. Just equity. Control. The first thing I did was audit the cap table. Mark had deluded himself raising bridge rounds to cover the glitch. He owned 4%. Sarah owned 2%. I owned 60%. The investors owned the rest. I called a special meeting. Voted Mark out. For cause. Gross negligence. The glitch was a feature. Documented. Signed by me. Legal airtight. He left the building in a taxi. No severance. No golden parachute. Just a box of personal effects and a reputation for killing a unicorn. Sarah called me 2 weeks later. Her voice was small. Cracked. David. The prenup. Mark, he didn't sign it. He refused. Said it was bad luck. I sat on my new porch. Different house. Quiet neighborhood. Birds singing. Interesting, I said. So community property applies. He's cleaning me out, David. The lawyers, he's moving assets to the Caymans. He says I knew what he was. He says I'm complicit. Are you? I asked. Silence. I didn't know about the lockout, she whispered. I didn't know about the server. You signed the vote, Sarah. He told me it was the only way to save us. He lied. He lies. That's what he does. What do I do? You get the best divorce lawyer in the state. You use the discovery process. You find the Cayman accounts. You take him for everything he has. /prosody. /voice. /speak.